Hey, it's me, AJ. I'm interviewing Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Reddy, Mr. Sylvia, and Mr. Brasier. We're gonna talk about music and favorite bands and yeah. Favorite music artist and why?
Talking to me? All right. My favorite musician and why? I have to say, I should have thought this through better because I've never been able to pinpoint it, but I'd probably go with Radiohead just because of what they do musically. It's always something different. They keep growing. And I like that, and that kind of, they hit me at the right age where I was really interested in them and then still keep interested in them, whereas a lot of bands I've grown not interested in as they get older.
For me, I'd probably have to go with Cake, simply because they're not pretentious and they don't try to pontificate on their musical backgrounds and things like that. They just have fun with their music and have a good time.
I would break it down. I have three based on decades. The Beatles from the 60s, Elvis Costello from the 70s, and the Beastie Boys from the 80s. And all because I think I would lump them together as all being bands that have really smart and heavy lyrics to their songs.
I could have gone with that too. I could have done the same thing.
I have to go with Tool for several reasons. One being their music is just really interesting to me. It goes places. They, as a band, continue to evolve, which I find interesting, and I never really get tired of listening to their music for that reason.
What your favorite genre?
I don't know if I have a favorite genre. I'd say if I was gonna like hit shuffle on my iPod, probably alternative would come up the most. But there's everything on there. Like it drives the kids crazy if I actually do hit shuffle on my iPod, because it'll go to classical, to country, to rap, to whatever. But probably when I fall back on a radio station, it's CYY or FNX, the old FNX. So it's alternative.
It tends to be based on mood and what am I into that day. You know, I have no problem listening to oldies, I have no problem listening to alternative. I don't listen to a lot of new stuff, but that's just me. I think that happens once you start getting old. The new stuff gets less fun. But I mean, growing up, my dad was in a country rock band. My parents played bluegrass all the way through. My cousins and whatnot were all into Metallica and Pantera and that kind of stuff. So I got the whole gamut of musical influences. So I'd say it depends on the day.
Had one genre that I was going to be forced to listen to for the rest of my life, I would pick reggae and ska.
This very moment in time, contemporary choral a cappella.
It's nice.
Why do you like this artist?
The artist?
Yeah.
Well, like for Radiohead, it's because they were always changing, but I can't really pinpoint one, like I've tried to before, but yeah, I'd have to go like top three like he did, like you'd say Beastie Boys too. I love Elvis Costello. And I'm trying to think of somebody new, so not the old guy that we were talking about, AJ. But
If you can remember when did you discover this artist?
well, you call me old, if I can remember. I was slamming us a little bit. So you got to the young kids too, when you get the young guys here and say, hey, can you remember? But I know Beastie Boys for a fact, because I was in a 78, you laughing, but this is true. It was a 78 Chevy Nova that was jacked up like this, and we were coming back from Boston and they played Fight for Your Right to Party. And we all just kind of went, what just happened there? Well, what was that? Because we never heard anything like it. That I remember very distinctly. Radiohead, I mean, everybody heard Creep because it was just all over the radio. But then to actually, when I really started listening to them in the other albums, it was in early 90s, late 80s. But I don't remember that. Like, I remember the Beastie Boys because that was just like just an awakening, kind of like, what was that? What was even happening when that album came out? When that song came out on the radio, I should say.
For me with Cake, I can really remember 2 moments in my life where it just really, I really enjoyed it. One of them was 1999, 2000, that New Year's Eve, Cake played at the State Theater. And I went. It was just one of my favorite concerts of all time. It was a lot of fun. It was great. But just before that, the reason why I went was in the, it might have been like 96, 97. Ben Coates was the tight end for the New England Patriots. Phenomenal tight end. And around that same time, He's Going the Distance came out. It was always being played on the radio, and there was a playoff game where they played Pittsburgh. Completely foggy, you couldn't see anything. And he caught like an 85-yard touchdown pass or something like that. And I can remember me and my cousins sitting around and just screaming, and we all just started singing He's Going the Distance when he was running down the field. And ever since then, I'm just absolutely a fan.
I think it was working on a show you went to, that show.
With the Beatles, my older sister was a Beatles fan. And I just remember her having the albums around. I have a very distinct memory of her trying to teach me who each member of the band was. And it was really hard because I was looking at album covers from 1964 and 1969, and they looked so different. And she was getting angry with me because I couldn't remember who was who in the band. And it was easy to, John wore glasses, so that's like I zoned in on that. Like, okay, I got it. John's the one with the glasses. But other than that, they kept getting mixed up. For Elvis Costello, I remember seeing him on Saturday Night Live in the late 70s, and then I started hearing him on an alternative radio station when I was in high school in Massachusetts. And the Beastie Boys, I have a distinct memory of seeing the Fight for Your Right video and thinking, these guys are idiots. This is what is this? This is junk. This is crap. And then about a year later, somebody handed me the tape and said, listen to this. And then I was just shocked. You gotta be kidding me. These guys are so much more than that stupid song.
I know. Yeah. Did you know what a tape is, AJ?
Yeah.
Explain that to the YouTube crowd,
Like cassette.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I remember where I was and what I was doing with every favorite band, from Van Halen to Punch Brothers.
Oh, you didn't say Van Halen earlier.
I didn't say Van Halen because I was a little embarrassed.
That was a concert.
It's not a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
it is.
Like everybody nodding.
Yeah,
we're down.
Yeah. High five.
Yeah. Dude.
Then I found out that David Lee Roth isn't really that cool.
Yeah, that's
Not a part you gotta get past.
I used to set up my speakers in my bedroom on both sides of my pillow at night, and I would lay in bed listening to Van Halen, and I would be singing like David Lee Roth. I don't even know what my parents thought of me, sitting there singing Running to the Devil at 11 o'clock at night, trying to scream like David Lee Roth. Tool, 2001, it was May, I was working at Ames. I remember the day.
Nobody's gonna know what it is.
I know, no, it's sad because Ames was a department store that everything was overpriced and hard to reach. You want to get a mop, it's way up there, and it's $12 more than it should be. I was stocking shelves. My supervisor, his name was Robert, was really into Tool at the time, and he was I remember he came in that day and he goes, dude, you have to get Lateralis. It's freaking awesome. That's exactly what he said, and I was just I have no idea what you're talking about. Went to the electronics department, which was about 5 feet over here, where they had overpriced CDs. Bought the album for, I think it was like $21.99 or something. Ridiculous.
Which with inflation's like $800.
Yeah, and they had the big plastic white
Yeah.
things on them, looked like a suitcase. Took it home, put it on. Like I said, I didn't get it, so I just left the room and went into another room, and then like, I don't know, half an hour later, all of a sudden I was like, well, that's cool. Like one cool part of one song, and that's kind of what hooked me. Yeah.
Can you relate to the artist?
Can I relate to them? I think, yeah, I think that's probably why they're my favorite. When they become your favorite, you just, there's something there, something like they're speaking to you a little bit, or you can see yourself in their songs or something. I mean, everybody's felt the Creep thing, like hot chick that's probably out of your league, and you want to talk to her, but you're like, oh God.
Story of my life.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, we've all been there, so that's probably why that song's so popular. And then the other stuff they do, but yeah, that's true. A guy like you, Fletcher, with that.
Wrigley, Maine.
Yeah.
I was this close to saying that, Fletcher.
Coming from Dexter, or
Yeah.
GQ capital.
Yeah, you just get used to it.
That's why I'm wearing the red shirt today.
It is,
I gotta pick up
is
on
it
what
Dexter
works.
red shirt day?
Yeah.
But yeah, and like the Beastie Boys, it's harder, they're a little harder to relate to because some of the stuff they do is so, like a lot of rap, it's just hyperbole. But somehow you always relate to them, like musically, at the very least, just the notes they're playing, and the progressions, the chord progressions, whatever. But yeah, lyrically, Radiohead is really relatable.
I think the first time I really related to Cake was I was at a concert, and had all this like political propaganda rolling through on the backdrop behind them. And if you stopped and realized what was going on, it was a little odd for the first couple of songs, and then like 5 or 6 songs in, they started playing this song, and we took a little break in the middle, and they were just doing this instrumental thing, and they started a chant with the crowd, and the crowd started chanting, but if you stopped and thought about what you were chanting about, it was just complete political propaganda. And after they got them chanting for like a minute and a half, they just basically stopped, and everybody stopped playing, and they stared at the crowd, and they're like, what are you guys doing? This is, why don't you stop and take a minute and think about what you all just did? That's ridiculous. And then they just went back into it. That's they just have a smart way of communicating with the crowds when they're on stage, and that's how I relate to them.
And not many bands would do that.
Yeah.
Stuff, you'd say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think I related to, my 3 bands that I chose because I think the lyrics just spoke to me at different phases of my life. One thing, getting back to the Beastie Boys, that I really liked about them was that they used a lot, in their early stuff, they used a lot of Led Zeppelin samples.
Yeah.
And I was, forgot to mention that band too. You can't name them all.
But that we have the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Zeppelin? Yeah. But because they, obviously the Beasties were fans of Zeppelin because they sampled them all the time, so I thought that just made them that much cooler too and had me identify with them.
Can I relate to Tool? I think yes. Couple of reasons. They don't really go with the flow with their music. I don't really go with the flow in general. We have to be at work at 7:35, and I'm like, I'm going to show up at 7:38. But no, I mean, I think they're just a group of nerds that like to watch Star Wars and write cool songs, and I like to watch Lord of the Rings and write cool songs, and I don't know, I think it's just there's something about it that I can relate to.
And last, have you ever been to one of their concerts?
No, and that's one of the tragedies of my life, is that I had Radiohead tickets and I couldn't go once, and Beastie Boys I never got to see. I don't think they ever came up here. I'm trying to remember. Did you ever remember?
No, they were going to come to
now.
Foxborough.
Yeah.
But then
Right,
when
yeah.
Mike D like wrecked his shoulder in a
Right.
skateboarding accident, this was like around 2000 or so, 2001.
Now you can, of course. Wait, some formation, I guess you could, but, and hopefully the next time Radiohead goes out on tour, I will be able to see them. Because that's my understanding is they've done a phenomenal show.
Since I saw Cake in New Year's Eve in 1999, I've been to every Cake show that they've had in New England since then.
Wow.
That was this one. Yeah.
Well, the Beatles broke up before I was old enough to go to concerts. And I did see Elvis Costello at the Portland Expo in 1984. And I remember slow dancing with my girlfriend at the time to Allison.
Yeah, yeah.
And my oldest daughter, Allison, is named for that song. So I don't know why I didn't choose that song.
He's
It's my
another
favorite
one I've never seen.
Elvis
Now,
Costello.
yeah, now he does this thing with the spinning wheel. It's like Wheel of Fortune. He has all his songs on it, and he'll just stand there and he'll spin one, and whatever comes up, they'll play.
Yeah.
So it's like awesome shows.
So is he still touring with the Attractions? Have they gotten back together?
He does electric stuff. Last time he was up, I don't know if it was with the Attractions, like if you can call them the Attractions, like there's a guy or two missing or whatever. But
Right.
they were doing electric stuff. It wasn't just like acoustic.
Yeah, because I know he was doing an acoustic tour for a while
And
too.
he, yeah, because he put out a couple of really, actually pretty good country albums in the, I think that early 90s or something
Yeah.
like that. So he can do that.
I have seen the Punch Brothers who cover Kid A by Radiohead. So yeah, I feel like I've seen Radiohead. I've seen Tool 3 or 4 times. I think 4 times since 2002, which was the first concert I went to. And I remember I was such a huge fan that I was like, I was shaking, like when the lights went
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
and I was like, I couldn't compose myself, and then they came out, and I was just like, 6-year-old girl with a favorite, I don't
One
know.
Direction
Yeah.
concert, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah,
I felt that way at the Backstreet Boys.
I know.
No lie.
Hey, hey, hey.
I've seen the Backstreet Boys. in
Yeah, I was
concert,
gonna say,
no
you
lie.
can't make fun.
I'll own that on film.
Yeah, I want it that way, somehow gets into the mix of my shuffle of people, like all the kids are looking around. Excellent, sounds good.
Yeah.
You wanna give them the guns? You wanna smile at the camera, say, hey. Sweet.